moment so that she can provide some opening remarks, and then she'll plan to take questions. When we do get to the question period, please do raise your hand, and then I will call on you in the order in which your hand was raised. If you are joining by phone, you can press *6 to mute or unmute, and you can press *9 to raise or lower your hand. I will now hand things over to Administrator Wolf.
Great. Well, thank you, Riley, and good afternoon, everybody, and happy Election Day to Wisconsin. I'm Megan Wolf. I'm the administrator of the Wisconsin Elections Commission and the state of Wisconsin's chief election official. Thanks so much for joining me. Today is the partisan primary election that's being held statewide. Today's ballot includes primaries for partisan contests such as state assembly, Senate, and also federal offices like House and Senate. You may also have local level partisan primaries like county clerk on your ballot. There are also 2 statewide referenda questions that all voters will see on their ballot. Please remember, it is a partisan primary. That means you can only vote for contests within one political party. You can't cross over. Election Day in Wisconsin is a all hands on deck effort. It involves 1,850 city, town, and village clerks in Wisconsin. Those are the folks who register voters, they issue absentee ballots, they train our poll workers, and they run today's election. We also have our 72 county clerks, and these are the officials responsible for printing the ballots and certifying and posting the unofficial results. Then, of course, there are thousands of poll workers serving at around 2,500 polling places located in each of Wisconsin's communities. These municipal and county election officials have spent months preparing for today, and we thank each of them for all their work administering elections for their community. At the Wisconsin Elections Commission, we do not register voters, we don't issue ballots or administer voting at the polls. Instead, our role is in supporting clerks with anything they need to run a smooth election and answering questions that voters and the media have about the process. Overall, the election is going smoothly today across Wisconsin. I do want to provide you with an update on a mistake that affects voters in the town of Summit in Douglas County, which is located in far northwestern Wisconsin. This morning, the Douglas County Clerk's Office reported to us that they learned of a mistake involving ballots in the town of Summit, which has about 700 registered voters. All in-person and absentee ballots in that the county printed for the town of Summit contained the wrong Assembly District primary. The ballots contained Assembly District 73, but should have instead contained Assembly District 74. Wisconsin's newly enacted district maps moved the town of Summit from Assembly District 73 into Assembly District 74. Our understanding is that the town of Summit voters do not need to do anything. They don't need to change their voting plans. They should proceed to the polls as normal. If you have any more questions about this particular incident, please direct them to the Douglas County Clerk, and they'll be able to give you the facts from on the ground in Douglas County. Now, a few reminders for voters. The polls are open today until 8 p.m., and voters who are online by 8 p.m. still have the right to cast their ballot. If you're not registered to vote, you can do so at the polls today. To register, you'll need proof of residence. This is something with your address on it, like a bank statement or utility bill. All voters will need to provide a valid photo ID to vote, something like a Wisconsin driver license or state ID card. Your ID for voting does not need to display your current address. If you're looking for information about today's election, go to the official source of Wisconsin election information, which is myvote.wi.gov. At MyVote, you can find your polling place, you can check your registration status, and you can see a sample ballot there as well. If you haven't returned your absentee ballot, you can still do so, but you're going to need to act as soon as possible. All absentee ballots must arrive by 8 p.m. to be counted. You're going to need to check with your municipal clerk about where you should return your ballot, as some clerks may require you to drop it off at your polling place. and some at the clerk's offices. Others may have a central absentee counting facility. Some municipalities may also have drop boxes available. You can find out what your options are or how to contact your clerk by visiting myvote.wi.gov. Most voters must also personally return their own absentee ballot. However, voters who require assistance due to a disability can select someone to return their ballot. After the polls close tonight, attention will turn to the unofficial election results. But please keep in mind that election results reported tonight are never final certified results. Results are not official until they have been publicly canvassed or reviewed at the local, county, and state level. The final certification happens no later than August 27th. Election officials prioritize accuracy over speed, so please be patient with election officials as they compile unofficial results. And remember, the election process is open to the public, whether it's the processing and counting of absentee ballots or the canvass and review process that happens after the polls close at the municipal, county, or state level. All aspects of Wisconsin's voting process are open to the public, and I encourage everyone to engage firsthand with Wisconsin's election process. Finally, I have an update on absentee ballot figures. As of this morning, 387,280 absentee ballots have been requested. 288,021 have been returned by voters, and of those, 92,171 were ballots that were completed during in-person absentee. So I hope that everybody continues to have a great election day. If there are any other updates, we will be sure to let the public and the media know. But for now, I will stop there and see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Administrator Wolf. And if you do have a question, please raise your hand and we will call on you. If you are joining us by phone, you can press *6 to mute or unmute and *9 to raise your hand. Our first question goes to Alex Scher.
Hi there. I saw the Douglas County Clerk doesn't plan to issue corrected ballots. Is that something you approve or agree with, or is that something that could put her in legal trouble?
So the decision on exactly how to handle this is something that's going to have to be made by the local jurisdictions and ultimately by the absentee board of canvassers. So tonight, when they're canvassing the absentee ballots or the ballots, the results of the election, the canvass board they're the ones that have that authority to make some of those decisions this evening or tomorrow, if that's when their canvass happens. But you know, at the end of the day, some mistakes like this, the statute does not give us a roadmap to what happens, right? The statute does not say if this type of mistake occurs, then this is what Plan B looks like. And so the county clerk, the municipal clerk, and the ballot canvassers, the chief inspectors, they're all going to have to work together in part of a public process to figure exactly what the best course of action is going to be here.
Thanks, Alex. And we'll go to Todd Richmond. And Todd, it looks like you're still muted.
Yeah, Megan, all that just being said about Douglas County and how the locals are going to have to figure this out. You know, they're just going to look to you for advice. So what can you tell them? What's your stance on this? You just seem to be pushing this off on the locals, but you know, you guide the locals. So
Yes.
Where are you?
So the statutes do give the authority to make decisions about ballots and which ones are counted to the local election officials, to the boards of canvass. And so the statute is clear about sort of what some of the authorities are of the Wisconsin Elections Commission and what some of the authorities are of our local election officials. And in this instance, this is something that is going to have to be decided by the local election officials in terms of how they proceed this evening. So there isn't a statutory process for how this is going to proceed. There, of course, could be legal avenues that come into play if this were to be litigated, or if somebody were to file some type of sworn complaint before the commission, then that's where the commission's authority would kick in to be able to weigh in on these processes. But unless that happens, at this time, this is a local decision.
Thanks, Todd, and we'll go to Patrick Marley.
Thanks for doing this, Megan. I wanted to follow up on this as well. Presuming that, I imagine there would be a legal challenge or a complaint to the commission. Is rerunning that election possible? And if so, how do you fit that into the election calendar, given that this is a primary and the general comes up in November?
Yeah, again, there just is not a process laid out in statute for how this would proceed. So if this is something that is litigated or brought to the commission in the form of a complaint, of course, I can't, weigh in and prejudge anything that might come to us in the future. But I don't know what the remedies might look like that could be offered if this is something that's litigated. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of something happening quite like this, of there being any sort of precedent for exactly what happens in this situation. So we'll have to see what Douglas County and the town of Summit decide in terms of how they proceed this evening. And of course, we'll have to also stay tuned if there's any additional action taken by any of the parties involved.
Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick, and we'll go to Brian Kieran of Fox 11.
The numbers you gave for the absentee ballots are the same numbers you gave yesterday. So there was no update today for how many ballots were turned in from whatever your snapshot time was yesterday morning before the call?
Yes, the numbers were the same, and I have to apologize for that. There may be some new numbers that we posted this morning. And every day we post the updated absentee numbers from the statewide database on the elections website. And so I can make sure that Riley follows up with today's most recent numbers. So my apologies for that. When I was saying the numbers, it made me realize that those were the same numbers I said yesterday.
Thanks, Brian, and we'll go to Adam Kellenhopper.
Yeah, hi. So with the Douglas County voters, with the 700 registered voters there, it sounds like obviously Douglas County is encouraging them to go to the polls still, but they're not going to be able to reissue any ballots that are valid for the 73rd district. So will just a portion of that ballot count, or how much of that is going to count, and what's the point of sending people to the polls if the ballots are incorrect anyways?
Right. It's my understanding that every other contest on the ballot would count. Of course, if the voter is lawfully registered and is eligible to vote in those contests, then all the other votes on that ballot would indeed count. And so the referenda questions or any other contest that the voter is going to be participating in would count towards those elections. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it sounds like their decision is that votes cast in a contest where the voter wasn't eligible to participate will not be included as part of the final canvas totals. But again, we don't know exactly what may play out, if there are going to be any additional challenges to how that process proceeds.
Thanks, and we'll go to Bianca Shaw.
Hi, this is actually Shantae Nelson, joining with Bianca Shaw and with All Voting is Local. What I am wondering, I'm also wondering about Douglas County. Hi, Megan. What we're trying to find out is, and I just heard what you stated, and I know earlier you talked about voters don't have to do anything, and what you just shared was that it is possible that the other components of the ballot may be counted, but then in a situation like that, then we have an election that is being determined with an assembly district by not everyone's voice being heard. And that is, of course, what we consider to be disenfranchisement. So there may not necessarily be an answer to this, but what I'm trying to make sure we understand it, or what I'm trying to ask is basically, what would be the course of a voter? If a voter feels like that they were disenfranchised for a vote that they wanted to cast for a particular assembly district and they did not get an opportunity to do that, we want to ensure that one, every voice is heard, every vote is counted, and every vote is counted accurately. And so when we're talking about this type of situation, we know that it's an administrative hiccup, but what would be your message to voters who may feel disenfranchised as a result of this particular process?
Yeah, so I think that the best course of action would be to talk to the Douglas County clerk or the Town of Summit clerk for the voters in that community to have those conversations with their local election official. The county clerk is the chief election official of that county. They're the ones that prepare the ballots and distribute them to the municipalities. And so certainly a voter that is from the Town of Summit could raise those concerns with the chief inspector of their polling place, with their town clerk. And like I mentioned, there is the possibility that we could see additional legal challenges or something like a complaint, but that's not something that we're able to weigh in on before that would be something that formally comes before the commission.
Thanks, and we'll go to Jesse Apoyan.
Hey, thanks for doing this. I guess two questions. One's kind of similar to the last one, but one, is there any indication that these problems might be occurring in any other municipalities throughout the state? And two, not just for the voters in Summit, but for voters throughout the state, when they see this happening, what would be your message to them to reassure them that this election is being conducted, fairly and accurately?
Sure. In terms of, has this occurred in any other jurisdictions? No, we're not aware of any others. There are instances in past elections where, a small number of ballots may have been issued to the wrong voter. Sometimes like in a spring election, let's say, where there's thousands of different ballot styles, you may have a lot of different wards and districts within the same polling place. And sometimes we do receive reports that the wrong, couple of voters received the wrong ballot style. In this election, I haven't received any other reports of those types of instances occurring. In terms of how can a voter ensure that they're voting in the correct contest and that their ballot is as is anticipated, especially under the new legislative maps here in the state of Wisconsin. And the best way to do that is to go to myvote.wi.gov. And that's where you can see your sample ballot. You can also see your current office holders. And it's a great way for local election officials and for voters to, first of all, take a look and be prepared for Election Day, but also to double check everything and ensure that everything is indeed accurate. So I think we feel very confident in how the information was input into the statewide voter registration database, and that all the correct information would indeed be displaying for voters if they go to myvote.wi.gov.
Thanks for that, and we'll go to Kelly Milan. And Kelly, it looks like you're still muted. And you're unmuted, but we still can't hear you, Kelly. Okay, well, Kelly is still figuring out the Zoom issues. We can hop over to Liam Baran.
Hi there, thank you all for doing this. I want to see, have there been any reports of any voter intimidation or any threats against election workers so far from what we've seen today?
We have not received any such reports. It does seem like overall that things are going really well and really smoothly at the polls.
Thank you. And Kelly, do we have you? And we still can't hear you, Kelly. So let's go over to Todd Richmond. It looks like he has a follow-up.
Yeah, Megan, so people are being told to continue to vote as normal in the town of Summit, but now they're casting votes in the wrong assembly district. Are they opening themselves up to prosecution for voter fraud?
So the voters in those jurisdictions are being issued a ballot by an election official, and it contains an error. So I do not believe that a voter that is lawfully obtaining a ballot that's registered to vote and they've been given a ballot that contains an error that was an election official error would not count towards the vote.
Thanks. And Kelly, we'll give you one more shot here.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. You said that it was a mistake. How do you know for sure it was a mistake?
So I would refer to the Douglas County Clerk, and they can talk more exactly about how, you know, the process and what their plans are for ensuring it doesn't happen again. But that is what's been relayed to us, is that they believe it to be a mistake.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks everyone for joining today. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or the Elections Commission. And again, any local officials who might better address your questions if they are local topics. I believe Wisconsin Eye is covering this today, so a recording may be available there. Of course, check with them. If you do need a recording of this, let me know and I can work on that. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.